Is there any value left to be found in the world of officially bottled 18-year-old single malt Scotch whiskies? That's the question we're dealing with today. Because most officially bottled 18-year-olds are really expensive. They're trying to do an imitation of Johnny Walker Blue Label, and they aren't bringing enough to be worth the money. But, of course, we have seen one exception to the rule, right? Which is the Renaissance fourth chapter from Glengarry that I reviewed last year and absolutely adored. That was around $100. And this, too, may be the exception to the rule. Now, you shouldn't necessarily expect a huge, return on your money in investing in an 18-year-old whiskey. But it should at least be a different experience, right? Anyhow, so what I've got here is Laphroaig, 18-year-old, from Tobermory distillery on Mull. This is peated Tobermory, which I reviewed before, sort of links below. And this is, so there is a tiny, tiny lot number on this, if I can find it. Somewhere on the back of this bottle, I'm recording in the evening and there isn't a lot of light. But somewhere on this bottle, there is the number 2404232 space L5 space 1657 space 22216, which I'm not really sure what that means, but that's a lot. I'm pretty sure this was bottled circa 2021, and it is marked as unchillfiltered. So basically what we've got here is peated Tobermory with a pretty heavy sherry cask finish. And it's not that expensive. And even in the US, it's kind of hard to get. This kind of comes in and out of availability a lot. But if you see it, it shouldn't be that far north of $100. So if this is really good, it is a buy. Even if it's not really good. I mean, there's something to be said about a reasonably available, characterful 18-year-old that is worth buying anyways, just because, I mean, if you're giving a gift or something, it's just cool to have on paper, even if it doesn't necessarily beat an awesome 8-year-old or something. All right, let's see what we got here on the nose with this. The peat is present, but it's really the sherry that's mostly in charge. Dates, prunes, lots of dried fruit, golden raisins, figs, dried apricots, some kind of beef bouillon notes, like a bouillon cube. But the peat is definitely there too. It's leafy, it's kind of twiggy peat. There are some medicinal characters to this. There's a couple of old bandages going on. A little bit of a maritime note, a splash of seawater going on. White pepper. And if you're kind of paying attention, and you do have to look for it, little hints of Tobermory. The kind of Tobermory weirdness, the porridge, the kind of the beery notes, barley wine beer, like apple and pear, or maybe like apple cheese, the Lithuanian thing. Apple cheese, go Google it. One mustard seed, maybe. But it's pretty subdued. This is not a very Laphroaig. It's really more Laphroaig doing its best not even Laphroaig impression, if that makes sense. It's really leaning more into bandages and seawater more so than the kind of beery, Eastern European grandma spice cabinet kind of notes, which I sorry, I tend to expect more from Tobermory. On the palate, here we go. Did I mention bottled at 46.3%, which is good, which we like. So if the sherry cask, the finish is really leading on the nose, on the palate, it's all about the peat and all about the kind of maritime iodine kind of character. Very peppery. Seaside peat. Salty seawater peat. Medicinal. So you're getting the iodine, you're getting the bandages. There is some vanilla. I would guess this was mostly bourbon cask before the finish. That kind of beef bouillon thing. Touch of dried cherry, mud, but nice mud. And if you're really paying attention, there's those fun notes that I really like in Laphroaig. The chocolate fudge kind of thing meets the kind of barnyard thing, which I more associate with mainland peaters like, say, Ardmore or Benriach. But here it is in Laphroaig. Just little hints of that kind of fudgy meets stinky barnyard thing. Little old leather. A little teeny tiny hint of that beeriness, the barley wine thing. A little apple pear porridge kind of thing, like a maltiness. It's nice. My main complaint would be it isn't really Laphroaig. Like, it isn't delivering those sort of weird, side notes that I expect from Tobermory Distillery. You hand this to me blind, and I'm probably thinking more Southeast Isla. I'm thinking Laphroaig, maybe Ardbeg, maybe Kalila. Laphroaig is not necessarily coming to mind. I'm going to give that a squirt of water. We'll come back to this. And, this is a fun occasion to talk about value for a second, right? Because we think about value a lot of the time just in terms of QPR. Quality, price, ratio. How much are you paying and how good is the thing you're paying for? And if that's the case, like unaged rum is the winner right now. We ought all be drinking nothing but unaged rum. And in the world of malts, should you want to lateral to malts, it's mostly going to be young, usually peated stuff that wins out because they're less expensive and they're really good for the price they're at. But you know what? You kind of get sick of some of that sometimes. I couldn't drink young peated or unpeated malt all the time, and I couldn't drink unaged rum all the time. As much as I love unaged rum and young peated malts, sometimes I want to mix it up, and that kind of changes the value equation, right? Because if you just want a change, you might be willing to pay a little bit more money for that. So here we have something older, something a little bit more cask driven. If you are willing If that's the genre you want to explore, this might actually be more of a value for you. Anyways, I'm babbling. Just to say, value is isn't just about pure QPR. It also has to be relative to the situation of the individual drinker, or something like that. All right, let's go back to this now that it's had a little bit of time to adjust. On the nose, now with water. Interesting. So with the addition of water, the sherry's still there. I'm still getting those dried fruity notes. But it's really the vanilla coming through. It's so, which makes me think like a lot of whatever this was cast in before, a lot of that was ex-bourbon. And the seawater also comes out a little bit more. What does not come out really any more than before is the kind of Tobermory Laphroaiginess of this. The grainy, appley, malty, beery, mustardy side of that distillery, which I really come to expect after my experience with the Independence, does not really show its head here. This really, at this point with water, starts to impress. Well, okay, so the medicinal notes are also kind of receding. So you hand this glass to me blind, and I'm really thinking more like, well, maybe a slightly more medicinal Kalila or something, more so than Laphroaig. On the palate, here we go. Ooh. So I didn't talk about the finish, really, did I? I mean, the finish on this neat is perfectly fine. But when you add water to this, it really vastly improves the finish. Which really, so the wood comes out. There's some more kind of grippy, overstewed tea kind of tannins happening on the finish. More pepperiness. The peat is holding on nicely. There's actually a little bit of a floral character coming through the peat now, which is fun. Yeah, and again, the same thing as on the nose happens. The sherry character kind of recedes even more, and on the palate, it wasn't even that dominant to begin with. But now I'm mostly getting nice, clean bourbon cask peater. There's some more kind of iodine-y, banagey, Laphroaig sorts of notes coming out on the palate as compared to before, though. So there's that. This is nice. It is very good. It's extremely solid. Is it, I don't think this is as, it's not up there with the Renaissance fourth chapter for me. Like, it just doesn't bring that level of complexity. Is it good? Yes, it's really good. And if you were in the market for a malt of this age that is going to bring that kind of woody back end, I think this is a really good choice. I would call this an 87-point whiskey. And QPR-wise, that's not the best thing in the world, considering this is still, $100 or so. But for something bringing a fair amount of cask influence, and that, oh, by the way, says 18-year-old single malt Scotch on it, I think this is still pretty decent value. Yeah. The main complaint I would have is it just feels a little too Southeast Isla for me and not Tobermory enough. But that's me. That's me. I'm sure everyone else out there is happy to hear, oh, it's the Laphroaig substitute. Oh, I'm going to buy it right away. But me, I want the weirdness. I want the Tobermory funk. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. 87 points out of 100. Worth a shot if you're in the market for that sort of thing. Thanks for watching and cheers.